How's it going? SML is in the chat. Hello, SML. Great to see you. What is going on here? What is this thing? What? Do I just pull it out? No, I need all the hair I can get. Is it down now? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so we are just getting set for the show today. We got some stuff to go through here. I think we are up and off to the races. There we go. Hello, SML. Good to see you. I think we're coming up on TikTok, on YouTube, firing everything up here. It has been a busy, busy day. Let's see. How's your day going so far? What? 23 people already? What's up, Jose? SML? Do you watch UEFA Championship League in soccer? No, I don't. You're going to have to fill me in on everything. Paramount Plus, never heard of it. I don't even, what is that? What? Is that like a food? Something like the snack? Leanne, hello. Hi. Yo. Oh, Hi's out on Twitch. I love that we have Twitch representation here. YouTube tells it all, so what the? Yeah, Jose Bravo, great to see you. James, I'm doing great. Would be cool to stream on Kick. I agree. I would love to see how this goes on Kick. Let's see, Patrick, yes. Patrick, you're our favorite regular now. We don't talk about, is that like that's gotta be, it sounds like a snack, right? Fred, what's up? Why are we here? SP8 Vision, that is a very good question. It's a big question. It's actually the most important question of all. Why are we here on this earth? I have a migraine, angel face. I had one really bad a little bit earlier, but I had some coffee and it feels better. On YouTube too, tell us what's going on in the world. Oh, we are about to. Miro Mo 91. Aw, this is up. That's right. Tell your baby we said hi. Let's see. If I see you one day in public, can I get a picture? Of course. Absolutely. How's it going? I watch soccer. Great to hear. SML. Goal. That's right. Actually, I think it's like Golazo. At least that's right here. I love Angel Face. Great. You're welcome, SML. All right. So let's get to it here. I got to do one of those TikTok things as well. That's the worst part of the day. Just stressing about what we're going to post before the show. Sure. Thanks. Thanks, Big Mike.
You're back to it.
All right. Yeah. Anything for the headache. That was Big Mike. We got Robbie over here. Robbie on the Ronin. He's upside down. There we go. And if you guys are just joining us here, let's walk through what we've got here. One-way ticket to New Zealand. New Zealand would be wonderful. Hi from Alaska. Hey, I recognize you, Gandhi. What's this show about? Orale, I'm about to tell you. Later, peoples. Hi. Nah, big brother, stay for a little bit. Hold up. All right, here's what we're doing. No, don't move on, Mark. We got a whole show coming up. And if you're just tuning in and you're wondering what this thing is and why this is streaming on NBC News' YouTube account or my TikTok account or the Twitch account, this is NBC News' Stay Tuned Now, which is my show. It's at 5 o'clock. You guys are a little bit early. You guys are 12 minutes early, so Stay Tuned doesn't start until 5 o'clock on the West Coast, 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and then we're going to tell you all the news of the day that we have been preparing for you throughout the day. It has been a very, very crazy day here in Los Angeles. We are going to be talking about what's happening in Iran. We're going to be talking about Luigi Mangione. But first, we're going to be talking about the news the allegations against Cesar Chavez and the statement from Dolores Huerta. I don't know if you guys have seen all of that, but it is just sending so many shockwaves throughout the Latino community. The Chicano, rights movement was, synonymous with Chavez and Huerta and the things that we've heard today, allegations against Chavez are they are hard to process and very disturbing. So we're going to talk about the cultural impacts. We are going to talk about what this means going forward. I grew up in New Mexico, and I got to say, like, when I was growing up, Cesar Chavez was a folk hero. I mean, Cesar Chavez Avenue, like, there's so many things about the Chicano movement were tied into the curriculum with lessons about Cesar Chavez, and he was lionized. And now, all of a sudden, we are hearing these allegations of sexual assault and rape. So we're gonna go through all of that. Let's see here. Commentary included. We are talking to Gustavo Arellano. He is a columnist at the LA Times who had this really, really great column today. And so he's going to be giving us a little bit of perspective there. We'll hear his commentary. We've got some reporting from NBC News. Camila Bernal is on the story for us. Yes, current news packed in an hour with me and the crew. That's right, Monkey Beats. M10711. That is what a lot of people are asking today. And she lays it out in the statement. She basically says that she didn't want the farm worker movement and all the work that they had done to be overshadowed with what happened to her, she says, and what happened to what appears to be other victims, according to the New York Times. So let's see here. Kevin in Albuquerque, then you know about you drive. I used to drive down Cesar Chavez all the time in Albuquerque. So yeah, it's a lot. It's something that a lot of communities are going to be grappling with here in Los Angeles. There are a handful of schools, middle schools, elementary schools that are named Cesar Chavez. So what happens going forward? We're going to be talking about that. Are we going to be showing the tragic events in Cuba? Mario, we have been taking a look at Cuba throughout the week, and we are going to continue to do so as the situation develops. We understand that power is coming back on, but still pretty critical situation out there. In fact, George Solis, our correspondent, he gave us a tour of a hospital there, I believe, yesterday that was struggling. I mean, ambulances, a lot of the ambulances had to be parked because there was no gas. And let's see, Chente, Free Cuba, make a TikTok video about the studio tour and the control room tour. Yeah, SML, maybe I will. Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, let's see. Oh, Blood to Bleed. Kev, you were on Twitch. Sony FX3. Oh, wait, are people asking about? So many people watching this stream. On which place? Are they? Hope not too many, because then the comment section gets all crazy. We know a lot of people are watching on TV, like old school TV, because you can watch it on any big TV if you've got one in your living room, a Samsung or whatever it is. Just turn on NBC News Now, and you'll be seeing Top Story, which is the show right before ours. And then at 5 o'clock or 8 o'clock on the East Coast, you'll see this show, but you won't see this part. You'll see a very polished version of this show. But if you're here during the commercial breaks, you will be able to chat with the chat and ask questions, and I'll try to get them answered during commercial break. So maybe this is a future of news, maybe this isn't, we'll see. M in Brazil, ótimo, about the studio tour, control room. All right, if we're gonna do the studio tour, we gotta do it pretty fast. Aliens or meteorite in Ohio, Pluto, you know what I think about that. Let's see, Palmdale, California, Don Curtis. Okay, all right, let's do the studio tour. It's a great idea. SML. I want to do the studio tour. All right, so this is the part of the day that you have to make a TikTok for TikTok to see the algorithm, all the stuff. So this is like my attempt to stay active on TikTok. What were we going to say? All right, I think I know what we're going to do. Okay, today is, wait, what's today?
Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday.
18th.
Wednesday the 18th. We're trying to start with the date. So March 18th, 2026, because you never know when you're going to see this in the future and you're going to be like, that does not look like the reality we know today. Today we're not talking about the news though. On this TikTok, we are going to do a quick little studio tour because we got people here on the chat wanting to see the studio. So this is a Stay Tuned studio here in Los Angeles. We are on the Universal Studios lot. This is Artemo. If you hear it making some weird noises during the show, it's not me, it's Artemo. Blame it on Artemo. The noises are real sus. And then over here, this is the control room. What up, guys? This is the control room. This is the tour. This is the whole crew. Wait, did you guys know we were gonna be doing this? Dang. And then over there, that's Kevin beyond. Yeah, that's Kevin over there. He is the mastermind behind the stream. That's Min. He's our protein maxer around here. But yeah, this is what it looks like here in Los Angeles. Warning, beware of the robots. That's backwards, so my camera must be opposite of what it's supposed to be. But I think this is gonna do it for this TikTok. So yeah, stay tuned. Okay, SML, that's the making of your TikTok for the day. Now we just post that, fire and forget. If you guys are watching and you guys were cringing alongside me making that TikTok, then please go comment on this TikTok because you know this is what we do now. This is what we do. How's that for a caption? This is what we do. Universal Studios and
TikTok.
Don't ask, okay? Look, like in order, you know how it goes.
Look at it on TikTok. So.
Camila Bernal is now here in the studio, and she's like, "What are you doing? That was embarrassing." It's the whole, you know, like.
I've been seeing more of your TikToks. On
I know,
actually.
and that's the thing. Like, I'm supposed to be. It can't just be doing the live stream. I've been told that I have to continue to update my account and post every day, and I'm supposed to be doing 3 to 5 a day.
TikToks?
Yeah, but then I always, dude, this show takes a lot, so I always forget until right now, and so now that was the TikTok. Let's see. But remember, this is the side hustle of the side hustle of the side hustle. First comes the show, first comes the network, first comes NBC News, then comes you and I, this little chat thing, right? Then comes all that stuff, right, Camila?
So I'm like, what, 100?
No, you're part of the newsroom. Newsroom is #1 around here, okay? A lot of people forget. A lot of people are like, yeah, no, news, like influencers, all this stuff. You guys are just doing. No, this is a huge organization, and it takes a tremendous amount of effort and time and money to bring you reporting from all over the world. So really that's what we do. Yeah. All right. We got 2.5 minutes for the show. Give me 2 seconds here. Let me catch up some stuff here. Starting at G. Okay. Let's see. Yes. Did you see the whole?
I didn't. That's why I'm asking.
Okay. So I think with Gustavo Arellano, we're going to be talking about like you grew up probably hearing about him as a folk hero. I did. So we'll talk about that with him because he had a really good. He had a really good column today. I think for us, it's going to be, you know, his name being synonymous with Dolores Huerta and the whole movement. And so how do you start?
How do you separate?
Yeah, how do you exactly? And then his kids are now leadership everywhere. And so what is the family saying? And then I think anything from the communities from here in LA or Fresno or wherever. So I think that should do it for ours.
Cool.
Okay. All right. So that's Camila. This is us preparing for the show. We're going to be leading with the huge headlines that are coming out of this report from the New York Times about Cesar Chavez and allegations of sexual abuse, rape, and sexual abuse of minors, as well as Dolores Huerta, who co-founded the Chicano labor movement with Cesar Chavez. So she's 95 years old now, and she had a statement a little bit earlier. We're going to be talking about that in about 40 seconds when the show starts. Let's see. All right. Yeah. And this ribbon, I'm glad you asked, JB. This ribbon, I mean, so many of us are wearing it in solidarity with Savannah Guthrie. She's our colleague, and her mother, Nancy, like she was kidnapped, and we don't know where she is. And so every day we are praying for her safe return. So if you see people wearing the ribbon on NBC, it's just our silent way of saying that we're praying for you, Savannah. All right, 5 seconds to show. See you guys. Hey guys, it's Scotty Schwartz, and tonight, the shattering of a legacy. Cesar Chavez built a movement protecting the vulnerable, but now new reporting alleges he might have used his power to exploit them. Accusations that he sexually abused women and girls as some allies stayed quiet to protect the cause. Then a massive strike on Iran's energy production, raising serious concerns about a global fuel shortage. But on Capitol Hill, the talk is about whether Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States before the president gave that go-ahead to launch that initial attack.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
False.
Plus, this horrifying scene on a ski slope in Switzerland when this gondola breaks apart from its support and crashes down the side of a mountain. And could be a case of justice delayed for one of the most closely watched murder cases in the country. We're going to tell you what Luigi Mangione's lawyers are asking for. And the line between admiration and, I don't know, intrusion quickly disappears when that guy decides to climb inside Moo Dang's enclosure at the zoo. And tonight, we start with allegations against civil rights leader Cesar Chavez that are reverberating across America. Dolores Huerta, the woman who coined the term Si Se Puede, the woman who co-founded the United Farm Workers Union with Chavez and co-led that movement that reshaped workers' rights. Today, she publicly accused the late Chavez of rape. In a statement, she says in the 1960s, she had 2 sexual encounters with Chavez. In one, she says she was manipulated into having sex with him. The second time, she says she was forced to have sex with him against her will. And both incidents resulted in pregnancies in children who she arranged to be raised by other families. And she kept it secret because she didn't want to, quote, hurt the farm worker movement she spent her entire life fighting for. But the 95-year-old said she decided to come forward today because some New York Times reporting indicated that there may have been other victims. Meanwhile, that New York Times investigation alleges that Chavez sexually abused at least 2 other women, both when they were minors, back in the 1970s when Chavez was the president of the United Farm Workers Union. The New York Times also saying that their findings are based on over 60 interviews with Chavez's top aides, relatives, and members of the UFW, as well as hundreds of papers, union records, confidential emails and photographs, and hours of audio recordings from UFW board meetings. Now, one of the women told the New York Times that Chavez was leading that historic 1,000-mile march when he allegedly raped her in a motel room when she was 15 years old. So far, NBC News has not been able to independently verify Huerta's claims or the victim's claims, but the UFW says these allegations have been profoundly shocking. We need some time to get this right, including to ensure robust, trauma-informed services are available to those who may need it. But already, the reaction has been swift and widespread. Across the country, a lot of events commemorating Cesar Chavez Day. Cesar Chavez Day is an official state holiday here in California, and many of those events have been canceled. And so many communities are now debating whether the countless public buildings, schools, the streets bearing his name, Cesar Chavez, whether they should be renamed or not. Let's bring in Camila Bernal, who's been following this story throughout the day. Camila, great to see you. This is such a dark day for so many in the Latino community and beyond that they're going to remember going forward here. For so long, Cesar Chavez's name has been synonymous with Dolores Huerta and the entire Chicano labor movement. Where does this go from here?
That's a great question. And I think the union kind of said we need time. And I think a lot of people are saying we need time to figure this out because they're so proud of the work that was done in the 60s and the 70s, what they were able to accomplish through the union. They were able to get rights. They were able to have better wages, the health, so many benefits that came from this movement. But now how do you also deal with these very horrible allegations? People have called them shocking, painful, hard to believe. And the thing is that when he died, Dolores Huerta really took over, you know, the movement. And she has been the one representing this movement. And to hear these allegations from her, to hear that she too was sexually abused, is very difficult for a lot of people. To hear that they had children together and that nobody knew about any of this is difficult to hear for those people that are in the movement and have supported the movement and who want to continue to be involved. Because like you mentioned, every year there's a celebration of his life and a celebration of that movement.
Yeah, we'll see what happens going forward. So many of Chavez's children, his other children, have gone on to leadership positions within the movement. Have we heard from his family?
Yeah, a lot of members of his family have joined the movement because it really was a family, right? And so many people who lived together and who fought together have grown up together as well. The family and essentially every other organization that has put out a statement has acknowledged these allegations, and the family is saying they're deeply painful for them, and also saying that they wish peace and healing to all the survivors who they say they commend their courage to come forward. And so they're focused on those survivors. But later on in the statement, they also say that there was another person that they knew, that father and that figure that was at home with them and who led this movement, who they're very proud of as well. So I think even the family is struggling to figure out how do you balance the good and these allegations as well.
Yeah, there's so much anger out there already. How are communities responding to things like statues and those things that we see all across, here in California, especially and throughout the Southwest, those public monuments commemorating him?
And even Gavin Newsom today said, look, there's going to be a lot of conversations because, yes, there are people that are going to say, let's change the name of the school. Let's not have a monument in his honor. And again, Gavin Newsom is another one that said, let's figure this out. We might need some time here. What's interesting is that the union said, look, we're not going to celebrate on the 31st, which they usually do every single year. Instead, they said people should join immigration justice events. They want people to focus on acts of service to support the farm workers community. And so focusing on other things and not necessarily the man is something that some organizations want to do. But I do want to point out that even Dolores Huerta, what she said was this movement was not about a single person. It was about so many people who went out there to march, to protest, who went on strike. So one of the things that she really wanted to highlight was it's not about him, it's about everybody that forms part of this movement.
Yeah. Camila Bernal, thank you so much for all of this. And joining us now is LA Times columnist Gustavo Arellano. Gustavo, thank you so much for being with us. Your column today, the Cesar Chavez myth is punctured. It was a gut punch to so many who grew up seeing him as this folk hero. I'm one of those people. I grew up in New Mexico. So much of my early childhood education in the Southwest was intertwined with these lessons that we would receive lionizing this man. And it sounds like you had a very similar experience here in California, right?
I was a little bit different because my parents were Mexican immigrants. So when I was growing up, I thought Cesar Chavez, when I heard his name, I thought the boxer, Julio Cesar Chavez. My mother, she was a farm worker as a child up in Central California and then in Orange County, where I was born and raised. And she had no idea who Cesar Chavez was. But once I learned about him, I admired the man. I admired somebody who was out there working on behalf of one of the most exploited parts of the American economic system back in the 60s to this day, really since the beginning of this republic.
And you write in your column, some people will argue that it's unfair that he will likely get wiped away from the public sphere while other predatory men from the past and present largely maintain their riches and reputations. But that's looking at the abuse revelations the wrong way. I want to ask you, why do you say that?
Because right now we need to center the voices of those who were abused, who suffered abuse under Chavez, whether it's those two women who were abused, and like 13, 14 years old, to Dolores Huerta, an icon of her own right and the longtime associate of Chavez. And so always start with that. Like right now, people do not. And also, by the way, the Cesar Chavez Foundation and the United Farm Workers, in their statements that came out the day before the New York Times article, that's who they were centering. Right now, it's not about protecting Cesar Chavez. Right now, it's not about reclamations or questions about why all of this is happening. I understand where that tendency is coming from, but right now we start with the survivors themselves. And Dolores said that. One of them said to the New York Times, it's not about one man, it's the movement. We need to, como se dice, reacclimate ourselves to something that's how Cesar started. When he was part of the United Farm Workers and leading it, it was a movimiento, a movement. It wasn't adulation of one man. That was the mistake that his followers did in the years and decades that followed.
Yeah, and you're right to point that out and offer some criticism in your column today about those that often get distracted by the individual when it's all about the movement. And yet this movement was about giving voice to the people that were powerless. And there is there's just a hypocrisy to a lot of these allegations. How do you see the Latino community and the Chicano community reconciling the man with the movement going forward?
We're seeing this in real time. There's already movements in Bakersfield, which was supposed to name a street after Cesar Chavez. That's not going anywhere. In Fresno, which for years fought to get a street named after Cesar Chavez, and it was named, a council member who was part of the movement as a child says, we got to take that down. There's streets, schools, parks, community centers, student lounges named after Cesar. Every community that's there is going to have their moment. Some might keep it. Some might say, why try to erase history? Let's add context to it. Other people will say, no, we can't do that anymore. I think this is a moment. And yes, this does come at a time where a lot of Latinos do feel under attack from this administration. And it is sad to see one of the few Latinos who have national recognition in the civil rights stage have these accusations put against them, but to see the community and people calling out, again, first to center the survivors, then after that to figure out what's next. I think that shows a strength that a lot of people do not give Latinos credit for. But if 2025 showed anything, Latinos are stronger than ever before. We might not have the political power, but don't underestimate our righteousness, and don't underestimate our ability to interrogate ourselves in ways other Americans refuse to when it comes to other certain powerful men.
Yeah, quite the moment of introspection. I do want to ask this as a parent, though, right now. I mean, again, thinking of my education, thinking of all the elementary schools, many elementary schools that I know right now that are named after him. When it comes to education, especially here in the West, how is this going to affect the way children learn about the Chicano movement? I can already see textbooks in a way being rewritten, historic curriculum being changed here. And then again, you know, when you get into middle schools, when you get into high schools, there are age-appropriate conversations that you can have with children. But when it comes to farm workers' rights, that's something that's taught in the elementary schools. Where do those conversations even start?
I teach a Latinx history of Orange County course at Chapman University, my alma mater. And I get students from all over the country, not just from Orange County. And one of the things that I tell my students is I'm going to teach you about heroes and sheroes that have never made it into the textbooks and probably never will. And maybe those lessons will not stick to you forever because you're not from Orange County, but I guarantee you those types of people exist in your communities. I think it is imperative for especially K through 12 education to teach children about their local history. Yes, we do got to talk about the bigger histories involved, you know, in that. And that's where you do mention the United Farm Workers. That's when you do mention Cesar Chavez, because we cannot remove what he meant to so many people during his lifetime and afterwards. We do now, though, need to put into context who this person was. We need to have a full reckoning. We cannot run away from the sins of people like other Americans would like to do with some of our founding fathers, some of the people that that certain segments of the society insist did no wrong. heroes do wrong. They are human beings. And the sooner we realize that, the better off we can be as Americans and the better off we can be considering all of our history, the true history.
Yeah, the true history, history that is dark, history that is messy, and yet it's the history of all of us. Gustavo, thank you so very much. Your column was incredible today. Thank you. And turning now to the war with Iran. Today, Trump's Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was in the hot seat one day after one of her top aides, Joe Kent, resigned from his job as one of the country's top counterterrorism officials in protest over the war. Now, lawmakers grilled Gabbard repeatedly about the threats Iran posed to the United States at the time of Operation Epic Fury. And in response, well, this was her answer.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was an imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime?
The intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and to continue to grow their nuclear enrichment capability.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
You won't answer the question.
It is the nature of the imminent threat that the president has to make that determination based on a collection and volume
You're here
of
to be
information and
timely.
intelligence that he is provided with.
Now let's get over to the White House, where NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez is standing by. So, Gabe, let's talk a little bit about some of the mixed messaging here. Trump has justified military action in the Mideast by saying that we were under imminent threat. But did we find out what they specifically mean by the word imminent here?
Well, Gotti, we have heard some mixed messaging from the administration since this war began, and you just played that exchange between Democratic Senator John Ossoff of Georgia and the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, where he pressed her on that word imminent and whether she believed that this was an imminent threat, that Iran posed an imminent threat. You'll recall, Gotti, that Gabbard has long been a skeptic of U.S. intervention abroad. She, during this hearing, walked a very fine line, chose her words very carefully, and said that basically it's not up to her whether there was an imminent threat, that it was up to the president to make that decision. Now, sitting, near her was the CIA director, John Ratcliffe. He did go out and say that there was an imminent threat, Gotti, but when pressed, he wouldn't put an exact timeline on it. So certainly Democrats are seizing on that. They are arguing that the administration has not defined what an imminent threat was, while we keep hearing from the president and from other White House officials that yes, that if Iran were to get a nuclear weapon, that made the threat extremely imminent because the Iranian regime would threaten the United States, and they feel that they were justified in launching these attacks, Gotti.
And Gabe, the Strait of Hormuz, it is still in limbo. It looks like it's going to be in limbo for a little while here. Given that that is a very well-known choke point for military planners, did we learn anything else about what kinds of plans the United States might have had for Hormuz going into this war or before that attack, or were there plans?
Look, there were a lot of questions about that in the hearing today as well. I will point out that in a recent interview that our colleague Kristen Welker did with President Trump, he did mention that he knew about the possible threat to the Strait of Hormuz. What he has said that surprised him were these attacks to other Gulf nations and other nations in the Middle East that Iran has attacked. Iran says that it's firing on U.S. facilities there, but the president has expressed some surprise at that. However, with the Strait of Hormuz, today, Director of National Intelligence Gabbard, she was asked about what she specifically told the president regarding the Strait. Listen to her answer to that question.
This has long been an assessment of the IC that Iran would likely hold the Strait of Hormuz as leverage.
And my question is, was that communicated to the president in the lead up to this action?
And it's because of that longstanding assessment that the IC has continued to report that the Department of War took the preemptive planning measures that it did.
Well, they've stated that they did not plan for the Strait of Hormuz. The president said, who knew that was going to happen?
So again, Tulsi Gabbard choosing her words very carefully there. I should point out, Gotti, that we also learned some new information from a U.S. official today that said that the U.S. dropped 4 5,000-pound bombs into storage facilities for cruise missiles of the Iranian regime near the Strait of Hormuz. But according to this official, the entire inventory is not wiped out yet. But this is the first known time that these so-called bunker busting bombs have been used in combat, Gotti.
And Gabe, before I let you go, I mean, here in the United States, talk about mixed messaging. We are still seeing prices, super high gas prices. We're being told that the Strait of Hormuz doesn't necessarily affect us because we don't get very much oil or natural gas from there. It is very small compared to the rest of the world. And yet, even before all this, affordability was this huge issue. What's the White House saying on that front?
Well, certainly. Well, the U.S. might not directly get gas through the Strait of Hormuz, but there are plenty of other products that are affected by this. Many other countries deeply affected by this as well. And yes, oil prices have spiked. And they spiked today following a massive attack on an Iranian gas field that the Iranians blame on Israel. And there was huge spike in oil prices. Now, the vice president today, he was at an event in Michigan. He acknowledged this. He called the rise in fuel prices a, quote, temporary blip. And he did promise that within the next 48 hours that the administration would announce some measures in order to combat higher gas prices. I should point out, Gotti, that today the White House did announce that the president will issue a waiver, a 60-day waiver on the Jones Act. Now, that's a more than century-old law that basically requires any ships traveling between U.S. ports to be U.S.-made and have an American crew, and that sometimes can lead to problems delivering supplies during natural disasters or wars. The White House says it will issue that 60-day waiver to try and alleviate some of these supply issues.
Yeah, we'll see if that helps. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez, thank you. And in the Middle East, another wave of strikes on all sides from Iranian cluster bombs in Tel Aviv that killed an elderly couple, according to a police chief there, to Israeli strikes in the heart of Beirut, killing at least 10 people, according to Lebanese authorities, to this. And this one could be very big. Israel hitting the South Pars gas field. That is the largest facility of its kind in the entire world. It extends deep underground beneath the seabed in the Persian Gulf. And Iran shares it with a Qatar. We're going to break down why that matters so much in just a second. But first, here's NBC's Keir Simmons with the latest from Saudi Arabia.
Well, this has been the most intense bombardment that the Saudi capital has suffered since this war began. Saudi Arabian authorities saying that they have intercepted every missile that was fired by Iran on Saudi today. But as we flew in, our flight was delayed by 90 minutes. It circled, it was put on hold until the Riyadh airport could reopen. And when we did get here, there was boom after boom of interceptions of missiles and very likely drones, even as foreign ministers from across the region were gathering for an emergency meeting here in Riyadh. The Saudi foreign minister saying that he is trying to de-escalate the situation, but many of Iran's neighbors are furious. The Saudi foreign minister gathering those foreign ministers together here to talk about an approach now, even as Qatar announced that it is expelling a number of Iranian diplomats after Iran hit a Qatari gas installation. Qatar says it managed to intercept 4 out of 5 missiles, but 1 missile did land on that gas installation. The Iranians saying that they carried out that attack because their gas and oil installations were targeted.
And let's bring in NBC News military analyst, Colonel Steve Warren. Colonel, great to see you. So Trump posted this earlier today on Truth Social. I wonder what would happen if we finished off what's left of the Iranian terror state and then let the countries that use it, we don't, be responsible for the so-called strait. That would get some of our non-responsive allies in gear and fast. Colonel, not to boil things down too much, but right now it seems very much like Europe and the rest of the world is kind of like you break it, you fix it, and then this is the president basically saying, well, we don't even need it, so you fix it yourself. Is that kind of like a accurate assessment here?
Well, that's certainly what it sounds like that most recent posting on Truth Social is communicating. And I think, the President of the United States has been trying to apply pressure to our allies and partners in Europe and other places to assist with getting these straits, getting the oil flowing through the Straits of Hormuz again. So far, he hasn't had much luck. Our allies and partners have frankly resisted, his calls to help open up this strait. So it's going to be interesting to see where this continues to go.
And yet we do continue to see, a lot of people think that this is, all guns a-blazing, but it does seem like there is still a lot of restraint on both sides. The fact that Iran is letting some traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, the fact that the United States is kind of also letting that traffic through as well. What is with all the restraint right now?
Yeah, I would say there's a moderate amount of restraint. We've seen, strikes continue, I think, to escalate, frankly. It's a higher intensity. We just heard it's the most intense bombardment in Saudi Arabia to date. So there is continued slow but steady ratcheting up of the intensity here. That said, as you've very accurately observed, the Iranians are allowing some tankers. Now, it's very few, less than a handful, quite frankly, that the Iranians have allowed to transit the straits. And these are Iranian partners, right? This is oil or natural gas, petroleum products destined for countries that Iran does business with. So clearly it makes sense for the Iranians to let that through. Why the Americans are letting it through? Well, thus far, the American and Israeli forces, have been resistant, have clearly not wanted to strike any oil tankers or any of this, commerce. So in some ways, it makes sense, for us to begin striking tankers or stopping tankers from transiting. That would be a significant step.
Yeah, and this attack on the South Pars gas field and then Iran hitting back on Qatar's energy hub, does that seem like a very big deal here?
Well, I think the strikes on South Pars, I think, had a very good reason behind them, right? The South Pars provides Iran with most of its domestic use energy. Right, so Iran doesn't use South Pars for export purposes. It uses it to heat homes in Iran and to heat homes and fire stoves and just normal energy use inside their country. So by striking that, we continue to strengthen our chokehold, frankly, on Iran, right? So now we're beginning to hit them. In addition to the punishment that we've delivered to their military, this now begins to affect their ability to conduct commerce, to do industry. Everything in Iran, everything in the world, of course, runs on energy. This is Iran's primary source of energy, and now we've begun to degrade that.
And Colonel Warren, one of the things I appreciate the most about you is, the ballparks that you've given in terms of timeline. When this first started, you were one of the first that said, this is not going to be over in a matter of days. Where do you think we are right now in the timeline on this conflict unfolding here?
Well, there's almost two timelines at this point, isn't there, Gaddy? There's the timeline that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Kane, is operating on, which is he has a target list. He has a series of requirements the president has given him: destroy the Navy, destroy their ability to launch missiles, et cetera. He is working down that list. And I think and I believe when I hear, we're sort of on schedule with that. So the president originally said 4 to 6 weeks. I originally said 6 to 8 weeks, maybe a little bit longer. So my guess is that the chairman of the Joint Chief will be able to tell the president, hey, I've destroyed every target on our list, Mr. President. What do you want to do now? I think that'll probably be, I'll still stick with 8 weeks. It might be taking a little longer. I think the Iranians have a lot more drones maybe than anyone expected. But I think we're still on time for that. But striking things and degrading them doesn't mean eliminating them. That's not really a military term, right? When we talk about combat ineffective, we talk about 50%, reduction in capability. That to the military is success. So, there's going to have to be a conversation between the chairman and the president and the secretary and the president and sort of link the military task with whatever our strategic objective is here.
Quite the reality check. Colonel Steve Warren, thank you so much for being with us. And don't go anywhere. Coming up next, an Alabama college student's visit with friends in Barcelona takes a turn after he disappears. His family is now pleading for help to find him. Plus, file this under what not to do. This guy just jumped into the enclosure of Mu Dang, that viral pygmy hippo with an iPad trying to get a close shot. And now we've got this shot of him trying to get that shot. Don't do that. We'll be right back.
All right, 90 to see reverse.
All right. All right. Okay. That was an A block. All right. Wow. 5:30. Okay. What are you guys saying here? SML, I'm hiding because of you. Looking at the iPad. Let's see. Shared the live stream. Thanks, D-Must. Yeah. Enko, I see what you're saying. Crabby Leftist is back. They'll never wind down out of this. Hopefully they do. Let's just hope. Let's try to be optimistic. I don't pick sides, but I do hope that the world becomes a better place for my kids. Let's see.
45.
Where's your other Stay Tuned co-host? You're talking about Savannah Sellers? Savannah, my new sister, she has her own show in the morning on the same network, NBC News Now. So this is mine.
30.
It's at 5 o'clock on the West Coast, 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and then Savannah starts pretty early in the morning. Same, if you're watching on the television, same place, you'll see Savannah. Let's see. 15 seconds. And then I saw another question and I tried to get to, but it slipped my feed
5,
here.
4.
All right, we'll try to get it in a bit. Hey, welcome back. Here are some other headlines we are watching tonight. Lawyers for Luigi Mangione are asking the judge in his federal murder case to move the trial to 2027. Now, they say they need the extra time to prepare for Mangione's state trial, and that is set to start on June 8th. The federal case starts a few weeks later in September, and Mangione's team says handling both cases at once just is not possible. Prosecutors are expected to fight the delay request, but they haven't weighed in yet. We've got some good news and some bad news from the Fed today. The good news is Fed rates are holding steady and they did not go up. Chairman Jerome Powell also says he expects there to be another rate cut at some point in 2026 and then probably in 2027 too. The bad news is that cut isn't happening right now because of sky-high gas prices. The Fed says developments in the Middle East are making our economic outlook pretty uncertain right now and could even add to inflation. And over in Florida, a paddle board pursuit led to this arrest. A new video from the sheriff's office shows a 28-year-old man talking to officers before taking off. Then he jumps into a river, but those officers grab some paddle boards. They jump in after him. He was brought back to shore before being charged with loitering, prowling, and resisting arrest. And a man is now facing trespassing charges after he allegedly snuck into the enclosure of the viral baby pygmy hippo Mu Dang. Look at that. That's just, those are security cameras catching that guy taking pictures and video inside of that enclosure while zookeepers and visitors were not around. Authorities say that neither Mu Dang nor that man were hurt. But yeah, come on. And police provided kind of a weird escort during a blizzard in Michigan. Troopers spotted an escaped horse wandering along a highway and then guided it back to safety through the snow. That wandered about a mile in that snow before they spotted him and then brought him back to that cozy little barn there. And here in Los Angeles, it is feeling like a summer as dangerous heat sweeps across the Southwest. More than 35 million people right now are under heat alerts of some kind, with some cities seeing triple-digit temperatures. Daily record-breaking highs are expected throughout the week, and NBC News' correspondent Liz Kreutz has more.
Across the West tonight, a scorching March heat wave making winter feel more like the height of summer. From California to New Mexico, 38 million people under heat alerts. Cities like Tucson and Phoenix bracing for triple-digit temps. Neither have ever before seen a 100-degree day in winter.
Those are June. Those are July temperatures.
The Phoenix Fire Department says already this week they've had to make at least 2 heat-related rescues on their hiking trails, which the city is now closing during the day through Sunday. Multiple spring training games in the area are also moving to evening hours.
Take breaks every 45 minutes. Get in a cooler environment and cool yourself down.
In LA, the blazing sun beating down on these construction workers in Altadena.
If it comes about 1 or 2 o'clock, we are dying out here. I mean, it is hot. We rolled up yesterday at 2:30 because it was so hot. We drank 4 Gatorades each, 4 water. It was like, you can't get enough fluids.
Some ski resorts now forced to close for the season early. These images from Vail, Colorado show parts of the slopes so melted you can see the grass. And in Nebraska, the warm, dry, and windy conditions continue to fuel those massive wildfires that have now turned deadly, claiming the life of 86-year-old Rose White, a grandmother who died trying to escape.
And Gotti, we can already feel the heat here. We are well into the 90s right now. It is hot. The sun is beating down, and these construction workers are incredible. They are still out here working right now. Just to the east of us in Palm Springs, they might break a record by the end of this week of 109 degrees. If that happens, that will be the highest temperature ever recorded in the U.S. in the month of March. Gotti.
Yikes, that's some resilience there. Liz Kreutz, thank you so much. And still ahead, a ride at a ski resort takes this deadly turn after a gondola snaps off, comes crashing down the mountainside. What we're learning coming up next. All right. Okay, what were we talking about here? Let me see if I can catch up. Yeah, that is wild. It is very hot today. It was like 96 when
3 minutes.
my kids got off school. I watched Savannah in the morning. Kat, that's awesome. Let's see. I need a stay tuned mug. Maybe. Don't you have a fake news channel you should be watching? Who are you talking to? User 7. Are you guys? Why are you guys? Oh, that's okay. They're allowed to think whatever they want to think. Yeah. Let's see. Thanks so much for the follow. What are the pins? Oh, this is, so anybody at NBC that you see wearing this is all for Savannah Guthrie and her family. Her mom, Nancy, I'm sure you saw, was kidnapped, and the family is in just this state of limbo where no one has answers, and we're all praying for a miracle and her return, but it is like purgatory. So NBC, anybody at NBC that you see wearing the pins, it's just our way of, we continue with the job, but in the back of all of our minds is just this prayer for a safe return. Yeah. Let's see, at the Today Show, that's right, SML. Yeah. Triple digits in March, unheard of. How's Lisa feeling? Let's see if she's here. Lisa's usually up here when she's feeling up for it, but doesn't seem like she's feeling up for it. Lisa is executive producer of the show. Oh, she's gonna jump on. She's in my ear. She's gonna jump on. She is recovering from a skiing accident. It was a horrific, terrible skiing accident, which she saved, I think, a school of kids that were falling off a cliff or something. I don't remember what the details are, but she should be joining us in just a second. Why are you now wearing more formal outfits on the show? Pachanga, you are very astute, and I am not a fan of this, but it feels like either it's politics or war, or it's just a mix of things that, I don't know. I would love to do the news in a hoodie all the time, but I don't know. I just felt like, maybe I'm wrong, who knows? I don't know. Yes, Lisa is the boss of me. Josh Games, I like the behind the scenes of the newscast. Oh, thanks so much. Reed says he would never go skiing. I don't know if he meant with Lisa or just go skiing. Dress coded, no one's really told me, but Krabby Leftist, no hoodies, please.
5, 4,
all right, here we go.
3.
Hey, welcome back. This scary scene out in Switzerland after a gondola came crashing down at a ski resort, killing one person. Now, authorities say that they think that strong winds were to blame, and NBC's Danielle Hamamdjian tells us more about what went wrong.
This is the terrifying moment a gondola comes crashing down a mountainside. Video capturing the cable car overturning multiple times at this ski resort in Engelberg, Switzerland, after it detached from the cable and plunged down the mountain. The winds blowing at more than 50 miles an hour as a helicopter was dispatched to the scene and people rushed to help. Police confirming only one person was on board, a 61-year-old local woman who later died of her injuries. Police saying, as a result of the accident, operations had to be suspended and passengers had to be evacuated. The fatal crash coming after a particularly difficult season in the Alps. The new year began with a fire in a club that killed more than 40 people, many of them teenagers. Then, weeks later, a series of deadly avalanches. Back in central Switzerland, the cause of this gondola crash still under investigation. Danielle Hamamdjian, NBC News, London.
Terrifying. Danielle Hamamdjian, thank you so much. And turning now to a missing college student in Spain. Police say 20-year-old James Gracie was last seen around 3 a.m. on Tuesday at a nightclub in Barcelona. And families say Gracie was visiting friends in the country for spring break. He was staying at an Airbnb. And authorities say they've even recovered his cell phone, but there is still no sign of him. Let's bring in Maggie Vespa to tell us a little bit more about this. So, Maggie, you talked to James's aunt today, right? What's she saying?
Yeah, Gotti, she says essentially the family is in the dark to an agonizing degree as to what may have happened that night. What they do know from friends who were with Jimmy at this nightclub Monday night and Tuesday morning was that they were with him the entire night, pretty much until they last remember seeing him around 3 a.m., again, at this massive beachfront nightclub. And then basically the group got separated. You know, they were out, they were having a good time. A lot of kids went home. Jimmy never made it home that night, and they don't know where he went. They don't know who he might have gone off with. He was the only one, basically, who didn't turn up. So imagine being a mom, a dad, or in this case, an aunt. This is Jimmy's mom's sister, and finding out that an ocean away, that's happened to your son, your nephew, your loved one. Here's part of what she had to say.
It's overwhelming, right? It's one of those things you think isn't going to happen to your family. But right now I really want to get the word out and get his picture out there and just beg anybody that might have seen him the other night or ran into him and are afraid because they were doing something they shouldn't have, but just to please come forward.
And Gotti, it's worth noting that photo of Jimmy with the white T-shirt on, that was taken the night that this all happened, the night that he was at the club. So they're saying that's what he looked like. He had a white T-shirt on. There it is, black pants, gold necklace. And they add they're working with the U.S. State Department as well as Spanish authorities. Jimmy's dad has already made his way to Spain, Gotti, to try and help with this search.
So that photo is from the night that he went missing. Do we know how he ended up separated from his friends? Correct. Or what happened after that picture was taken?
You know, we don't know exactly what happened. I mean, obviously, we've all been in college, been out with a big group of friends, and people kind of go their separate ways. We have talked to one of his fraternity brothers, basically the chapter president they're in Theta Chi at the University of Alabama. This chapter president, as well as Jimmy, as well as a bunch of others, they're visiting Spain to visit a couple of their frat brothers who are studying abroad there. This chapter president wasn't out with this particular group on Monday night into Tuesday morning, but he said it was a big group of like 8 to 10 kids. And he said basically he heard nothing throughout the night of anything that was bad that happened. No one was threatening them, he said. Everybody seemed to be having a good time. Jimmy seemed to be having a good time. And he said basically he didn't find out about anything, you know, bad or horrific that had happened until the next morning when he got a text from a bunch of his frat brothers saying, hey, Jimmy never came back to our shared Airbnb. We can't find him. That one detail, Gotti, is that cell phone that they realized by tracking Jimmy's location, which they had all shared, was at a local police station. Like they pulled up their phones, tracked their friend, found out the phone was at a local police station tonight. Officers aren't saying exactly how they got it. And the family, that's a big question for them. As you can imagine, like how did officers end up with his phone and what can that tell them about this disappearance?
Yeah, and the fact that it was at a police station, hopefully there are some clues on that phone and hopefully there's a peaceful resolution to all of this. Maggie Vespa, praying for that family. Thank you. And coming up in the future of everything, Artemis 2 is preparing to roll back out. More on its expected launch after some delays. That's coming up, so stay tuned.
All right, 2 minutes.
2 minutes, all right. We got 2 minutes, and then we get to talk about space. Stoked. We got Mike Massimino, astronaut, on the show. We know astronauts here. It's the coolest perk of the job. Let's see. Pachanga, Gotti, do you and the correspondents agree on the probing questions? Actually, if you saw at the beginning of the show when Camila was here, we kind of have a framework of where the conversation is going to go. I mean, it's a lot of research, and so correspondents for our show offer facts and attributed reporting, first-person reporting, and then we have analysts on that offer perspective and context. And so it's a little bit different between the guests. And then we've got astronauts like Mike Massimino, who's about to tell us what it's like to walk in space. So yeah, it's a whole lot of context on how the journalism here works. But this is mainstream, and I love it. I don't care what anybody says. It's very important. We've got all sides of the journalism spectrum, but you gotta have mainstream. You gotta have, NBC and the others here to just validate. It's all about self-correcting mechanisms in a modern society that works. And we are part of that self-correcting mechanism. Shout out to Kevin answering my technical questions. Yes, and shout out to Kevin for making all of this possible. Thank you, Kevin. SML, NASA, we got that coming up. Here we go. That is a great question.
Coming out to 4, Gotti.
4? Okay.
Be on 2.
Got it. Thanks, Big Mike.
Yeah. 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back. In tonight's Future of Everything, we are back in my favorite place, outer space, where 2 NASA astronauts powered on their spacesuits conducted a 7-hour spacewalk earlier today. Here they are. We've got video. They helped prep the International Space Station for upgraded solar arrays. Those are those huge solar panels that power up the station there. Meanwhile, we're one step closer to going back to the moon, at least the backside of the moon. This huge Artemis 2 rocket is scheduled to roll out to the launch pad tomorrow. Some helium issues and some hydrogen leaks have delayed it a little bit. We're now looking at a launch maybe as early as April 1st. Joining us now is former NASA astronaut Mike Massimino. Always fun to talk to Mike Massimino, especially because very few people here on Earth have walked out among the stars. We just saw that incredible video. You've done one of these before, or a few of these. What's it like to be out there, and how have things changed since?
Well, Gotti, it's probably, I think, the most extraordinary thing a person can do. It's certainly the most extraordinary thing I've ever done. Putting on your spacesuit, which becomes your own spacecraft to keep you protected and comfortable so you can do your work, and then going out in the airlock and out there in the vacuum of space where you can look anywhere you want and you can see the Earth or the stars when it's daylight, see the sun. It's just amazing. You're, of course, busy doing work. That's the first order of business, is getting the job done. And it was like for my 2 colleagues that were out there today, they had a lot of work to do. But at the same time, the incredible views over your shoulder and the experience of being out there is just really beyond words. Amazing.
Yeah. That's what separates you from people like me. I would not be able to do any of that work. I would be so in awe of everything that was going. Yeah, I don't know. I focus on the task while. Yeah, there's a beautiful blue marble below me that I think would just, I would be so stunned. But one day, maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, and maybe it'll be on some sort of, Artemis mission way down the road. We've got Artemis finally rolling out tomorrow. Fingers crossed. We've got maybe the helium flow stuff and the hydrogen leaks and the heat shield concern. Those are all well behind us now, right? Or are they still causing a pain?
Well, there's always concerns. It looks like they have those particular problems that caused a couple delays and then caused them to roll back the vehicle back into the vehicle assembly building to take a closer look. It looks like they've solved those problems, and they seem pretty confident. As you said, they're going to roll out tomorrow evening, and that's pretty serious. They're preserving the opportunity to launch on April 1st. Also, the crew has now re-entered quarantine. That's a big step. That means they're getting serious about that, too. So the crew's in quarantine, and they're going to be getting ready to preserve that opportunity to go on April 1st. And the press conference they had last week, I thought it was interesting that they said they're not going to do another wet dress rehearsal, or at least they weren't planning to, that the next time they plan to put fuel inside of this spaceship, that the crew will be on board, and if everything goes well, they're going to launch them. So stay tuned.
Yeah, we sure will. And Godspeed to their immune system. So hopefully no more glitches. We did see NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman saying that this mission is going to eventually help send us to Mars. There's all kinds of big, grand plans way down the road. But here's what he said today.
I think it's possible that you can have astronauts go to Mars and come back in the next decade. The next giant leap, which is nuclear power and propulsion, which we will also demonstrate by 2028, that will be how we will mine propellant, manufacture it on Mars, so we can someday send those type of spaceship from Mars back home.
Now, nuclear propulsion in space, let's go. That's been something that they've been kicking up, doing the math on since like the 60s and 70s. And yet we still have helium issues. So how far do you think we are from that to where we are today?
Well, it's pretty safe to say I think it should be doable by next decade to get people to Mars. That's what what the administrator just said there, and that's kind of always been the case, though. Oh, it'll be 10 or 15 years. We got to see when we get a little bit closer. I think what is exciting, though, that nuclear space propulsion, as you said, has been something we've been talking about for a very long time. If they can harness that, and they have this plan, as he said, in 2028 to do by 2028 to do a demonstration of that, I think that's very exciting because that really cuts down the travel time going to Mars, which is less of an not just that you go there quicker, but also less of an exposure to the radiation that the astronauts would encounter on the way to Mars. So that's a big deal. I don't see any reason why we can't. But let's go to the moon first. Let's get these. Let's get my friends off the ground here in the next couple of weeks and see how that goes, and test out that spaceship and learn a lot. And then let's concentrate on getting to the moon and then look forward to Mars. But I don't see any reason now that we have this mission coming up, Artemis, but also with what's going on with the private companies that we should not be able to put people on Mars. He said in the next decade. So we're looking at about 10 years. I think that's reasonable.
Interplanetary, but first moon. But first the moon. Mike Massimino, thank you so much.
I think first things first. Yeah, you bet.
Thanks, Mike. And the latest humanoid to break the internet, it is breaking plates. Here's an explanation. There's a moment at a California hotspot restaurant going viral after a service robot decides it just wants to dance. NBC's Jesse Kirsch has more.
This is the moment things started heating up in Cupertino, California. At this hot pot restaurant, a humanoid robot's attempt to bust a move just going bust. Items flying in the air. Restaurant workers appearing to try to rein in the robot with little luck.
The way this played out is funny.
Grab the robot by the collar.
What are the potential risks of a robot like that going haywire in a tight restaurant setting?
No, my reaction was first laughter, and then I immediately said out loud, this is very scary and very unsafe. I wouldn't worry too much about this robot sort of going rogue and leaving the restaurant and doing anything. I think it's just much more of a physical fear here.
NBC News chief tech analyst Joanna Stern says this humanoid should have a kill switch that its operators do not seem to know how to use.
It was likely on in entertainment or dance mode, and then something just went wrong in terms of the connection.
It should have it like right behind the ear or something.
This Bay Area scene just the latest reminder that technological leaps come with headaches. This Russian humanoid debuted with a faceplant. These Chinese soccer playing robots are not ready for prime time either. But still, many companies are racing toward the future of tech. In China, these robots are even helping police. But Stern says both the hardware and AI have room to grow.
This can be a huge billion-trillion-dollar business for companies all over the world. But it also is going to change the economics and the way people work.
This latest hiccup happened at a Bay Area Haidilao restaurant. For years, the company has pitched itself as a technology innovator, leaning into AI and robotics. Tonight, Haidilao telling NBC News the robot is part of a pilot setup. The company writing in part, in this case, the robot was brought closer to a dining table at a guest's request, which is not its typical operating setting. The limited space affected its movement during the performance. The company adding, we remain committed to providing a safe and enjoyable experience for our guests. Our Bay Area NBC station visited the restaurant after the video surfaced and found the hot pot robot seems to have finally cooled off.
Yeah, give the robot some space. Jesse Kirsch, thank you for that. And coming up, China maxing. It is apparently taking over social media as the latest viral lifestyle trend, but it's getting some mixed reactions. More ahead, but first, you got to see this. Last night, Venezuela beat the United States 3-2 to win the World Baseball Classic, earning the country its first championship. Venezuela was ahead most of the game, but in the late innings, U.S. star Bryce Harper hit a home run that tied the score. Venezuela then answered in the final inning with a hit that brought in that winning run. Congratulations, Venezuela. We'll be right back.
Clear.
All right, clear. I think that's it. That's the show. Everything else is on tape. Thanks. Good show. Good show, Todd. Good show, everybody. All right, we are... Yeah, we're going to do the China maxing story next. If you are watching on television, you'll be able to see that. But again, we're still trying to work out some of the kinks here, and we still have to get this thing called the NOC routed to this, and it's a very complicated endeavor that we're going to continue the effort. But in the meantime, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the news if you're watching, and if not, we will see you here tomorrow. Stay tuned. Bryce Harper loses. Ooh, cat. Ouch. Thanks. God forbid a robot wants to dance. It's okay if they dance, just not if they dance where their arms are flailing in our faces. Oh no, the robot. Military doesn't need a human in their AI loop. Let's hope they do. Actually, I'm going to San Francisco tonight to go do a story about a military humanoid robot. So I'll tell you guys about that more. Can you guys hear me now? Anyway, we're leaving. See you guys. See you tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned.